What is up, you guys? This is the last time you're going to see this little black shirt jacket combination, but I'm filming all of these on the same day, obviously. And so here we are. It's my last of the little end of year content. We are closing the door on 2022. We are looking forward to a new day, to a new era, to more better situations. But here we are. Today I'm telling you these are 12 4-star books that I read in 2022 that I wouldn't say were like surprising or disappointing. They're just books that I read, that I enjoyed, that I want you to read, that I think that you too might get something out of. They're not on the list in any particular order. They're just in the order that I read them. So we'll start most recently and work our way towards the beginning of the year. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I know it's a Russian classic. I know you're all like, but Monty, it's dense. It's a Russian classic. I can't do it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you pick up the one right here by Larissa and Richard doing the translation, yes, you can. Easiest book I read all year. It was smooth like butter. Here we are following a group of 7 individuals. We are seeing how their lives are enmeshed with one another. We are seeing them as it's a really complicated little diagram of their connections and things that they're doing. But at the end of the day, you get to see these 7 people living their lives, being messy, being rich, doing things that people do in ye old Russia. And it was a great time. It was a great time. Vronsky is about to be your new book boyfriend. You need a new book boyfriend? Check out Vronsky. The original fuckboy turns into the original simp. Does not get any more simp than fucking Vronsky. Just go read the book. Just go read it. Don't look at a synopsis. Just go do it. Just know that it's great. It's giving Gossip Girl in 1800s Russia. That's all you need to know. Go pick it up. Next, number 11, On Rotation. On Rotation. This is a fun little romance. It's a little messy. And it does involve some slight cheating, if you will. But you know what? I'm here for it. If people are out here reading that creepy fucking gymnast book again in 2022, we can read some light cheating. Here we're following our main character. She's in her 3rd year of medical school. So she's like going through all these different apartments, trying to figure out what she's going to do when she graduates, when she gets dumped at the beginning of the book. And so after she gets dumped, she runs into the new love interest, and we get to see them as they grow together, as they fight, as they become, they work through what they got to work through. It's a fun little romance. It's set in Chicago. I think that's it's a big city, but it's not a big city that I read a lot about. So I really appreciated that we weren't on like one of the coasts, but we were in Chicago. And it was just a fun time. It was a fun time. And as a black main character as the lead, her boyfriend is not black, sadly. Her boyfriend, I believe, was like Latinx, but it was a fun time. Interracial done well, I say. Interracial done well. Next, I have How to Be Eaten. I believe this was Maria Alderman, off the top of my head. This is a story of 4 little, is it 4? It might be 5. We got like 4 or 5 fantasy fairy tale characters, right? But it's set in the real world. So it takes the fantasy, like the fairy tale, but it transposes it into like a modern setting. And so each chapter of this little book is one of the little fairy tale girls, the women, telling their story to the support group that they've been contacted for. And it's them telling their story about the trauma that they went through, the experiences that they had, why they need to be in a support group, like what it's like for them, because all of them are kind of high profile to some extent. And some of them are more mysterious than others. Some of them happened more recently than others. And so you get to see them as they bond and connect over some of the things that they have gone through, and then share in the support group. It was a good time. It's not like anything I've ever read. I mean, obviously the Final Girl support group exists, but even there, I feel like that book just kind of went off the rails super quick that went off the rails. But How to Be Eaten was more character examinations, and so I appreciated it a lot more. Next up, I have The Portrait of a Mirror by Natasha Ajkowski. I know I fucked it up. Here we have the story of 2 marriages. It's 2 marriages and how they are intertwined, how they intermingle. And again, we got some light cheating. Again, Natasha, she got some strong pen game. My problem with Natasha, she only got 1 book. Natasha put out this book, and we don't got this. There's nothing to read after this. So as soon as Natasha starts putting out some more books, I know I'm gonna have a new favorite author. But until then, I need you to read this book about these messy, like married people, how their lives are intermingled, how they get brought together, what's bringing them apart, all of that good shit. Next up is With Prejudice by Robin Peguero. This, I told y'all to read it for Black Halloween. If you didn't read it for Black Halloween, well, you can read Black people all year long. But if you need some motivation, February is right around the corner. Black Halloween right around the corner. So, get your holds in now. But this is a story of a man he's on trial. And so part of the storyline is we're seeing this jury deliberate. And the other part is we're seeing the trial unfold. So it is a trial novel. So if you don't like legal thriller type books, probably not for you. But the reveals and the twists in this were good. Do I think that they were revolutionary? I would say that this has probably been done, but this was done really well. Like, I was left gagged. When I read what happened at the end of this book, I was gagged. It was like watching a really good episode of The Good Wife. And I love The Good Wife, one of my favorite shows of all time. So when I got to the end and I got to see what happened, I said, oh, this is good. Now, I do want to say that the person is on trial for the abduction and rape, like violent rape of an individual. So there is a lot of really graphic scenes about testimony in regards to the location of, the house that this person was found in or whatever, the state of the body, like that kind of thing. It could be upsetting to some people. Also, I think, no, we haven't gotten to any of the other ones yet. So that is the thing that happens over there. So do know that going in, if that's going to stop you or bring up something that makes you uncomfortable while reading. Next, I have Cover Story by Susan Rigetti, I want to say. And this is the story of an intern at a fashion magazine. She is living her big city life. She's from the middle of nowhere. I mean, maybe she's not from the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, but in my head, that's where she's from. But she comes to the city. She gets this internship while she's in college, and she gets taken under the wing by one of the department heads. Midway through the book, we come to learn that the department head is an Anna Delvey-esque character who has been saying that she's an heiress. She has all of this money. She has all these connections, but maybe she's not really that person. And so now we have our intern being enwrapped in that kind of a narrative and in that kind of a scenario, and what happens once she is in there, and how deep she gets into this. And when I say the ending of this book had me gagged, it had me gagged. I need this to be on Netflix immediately. This book ended on such a high note. This book is also really easy to get through because it's a collection of like Instagram posts, of text messages, of diary entries. So it flies by. It flies by when you're in it. Next, I have The Appeal by Janice Hallett. This, like I said this in tomorrow's video. I think this was published in the UK like in 2019 or 2021, something like that. But it came out in America like this year or the past year, the year before that. And it was really good. We're following this drama troupe. They're the subject of the case, but we have two lawyers at this law firm looking through these emails and text messages and other, I'm assuming they're text messages. I listened to the audiobook. So for me, it was like, it's not told like a podcast, but just because it was email correspondence, it had that same feeling of listening to a podcast like book. And so these two lawyers are going through this evidence for this case. I think it's like for the appeal or whatever. And we get to see the fractured relationships within this theater group, the crime that was committed, and like who did it. And it was really good. Janice Hallett has another book coming out this year. And because this one was a 4-star book I want y'all to read, I'm going to read it. I have seen The Appeal going around. I think The Appeal was one of the books that like really did get some attention. But in case you haven't, read it. It is really good. Next, I have Beast of a Little Land by Juha Kim. This was a Libro FM advanced listener copy situation. And this is set in Korea, right? Is it... How do I phrase this? It's set in Korea during the Japanese occupation of the Korean peninsula, which is not something that I had read before. I think that Pachinko makes allusions to it, and I think that there are characters in Pachinko who leave Korea during the Japanese occupation. But here, Beast of a Little Land, we are on the Korean peninsula for the entire time. So we're following this family. We see this woman giving up her child to a courtesan school, and we get to follow this girl from the courtesan school to Seoul And then in Seoul, we get to see the start of this Korean Revolution. And I learned a lot while reading this book. And I was really attached to this character. The character, this little girl. There's something about a courtesan school in historical, in historical books set in Asia that I don't know. Like, I like the trope. I'm not gonna lie. I like the trope. The women that we get to see at the courtesan school are great. The friendships our homegirl makes at the courtesan school, great. The how she's able to move through life after that, great. We get to see her love interest. I mean, they're children, so it's not like these are really explicit like moments in the book, but she has like this friendship with this boy who's sleeping under a bridge, and the boy who's sleeping under a bridge has this like gang. I mean, obviously it's not wholesome and shit because, you know, he's a homeless child, and we got, you know, other homeless children banding together under the bridge. But it was just a really good book. It was a really good book, getting to see them as, you know, times changed and as time went on. This was a little bit different than some of the other books I'd read around the same time, because it doesn't travel through time quite as much, and it's just really good. Just really, really good. Please go read this book. Next up is A Starless Crown by James Rollins. A tour book. I'm putting a tour book on a list of things you should read. I think this is described as science fantasy. We're following two groups of characters. We get to see them coming together, wondering if they should be together because the reader knows things about both groups that both groups don't know about each other. We have a girl with an animal companion who has like some magical powers, maybe. We have a prince who was kind of a good for nothing. I don't know if he's a good for nothing. I don't even know if he's a prince. We had a character who was like low-key a slut out here doing the things. We have a mystery metallic beings. It was interesting. There's a sequel coming out this year. I'm gonna read it. I don't know when I'm gonna fit it into my schedule, but I'm gonna read it. It might get read for the patrons, but I read The Starless Crown for Buzzwordathon, so if you want my more thoughts, go check out that video. Next up is a book that I think is just this book is messy. This book was a fun time, and it's Wahala. I affectionately refer to it as the biracial tears book, because we are following four half Nigerian, half white women in modern London as their friendship is interrupted by a character from their past who also is half Nigerian and half white. And she comes in and she is shaking up the pot. She is stirring the pot and she causes chaos in her wake. And it was just really good. It was a really good time. Now, there was a lot of there were some biracial tears happening. But I enjoyed it. I ate it up. It was giving, this is another thing that I think would make a really good adaptation. I don't know if I would want it though, you know, like maybe like a 4-episode miniseries. I don't know if I need like a long protracted season of Wahala, but I had a really fun time here. It was really nice. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's for everybody though. So this is probably the one that I'm like, I want you to read it, but also but just know going in that it's the biracial tears book. Next, I have 50 Words for Rain by Asha Lemme. I buddy read this with Aaron, and Asha Lemme, it was recently announced that Apple TV Plus has picked up 50 Words for Rain to go into development, which I think is wild that you would have 50 Words for Rain and Pachinko airing at the same time on the same service, but good for Apple TV Plus. 50 Words for Rain is set in Japan following the fall of World War II, as our main character's mother abandons her at the house of her Japanese parents. So her mother is Japanese, and she had an affair with a black American GI during the war. The American GI, he goes home, and he leaves his wife to raise their daughter. And so we're following this biracial Japanese woman as she is raised by her very conservative Japanese grandmother, who was from I think she was cousins of the emperor. So she was really feeling her oats, and she was not feeling this little black girl. This little black girl went through it. She had to sleep in the attic. She had to take bleach baths. She was if you name it, she was going through it up there, okay? And it wasn't until her cousin came to stay with them that she finally got to have a little bit more freedom. And her cousin quickly became the person that she was the most attached to. This does include some death of a loved one. This does include there's more time that's happening here. And overall, it was a lot. It was a very not fun, pleasant read. But go read the book. Go read it. I talked about it during my last year's Blackathon daily vlogging situation. So I've talked about it on the channel. Go read it. Go read the book. And the last two books I want you guys to read that I gave 4 stars to are, it's a duology. It is The Royal We and the Heir Affair by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan. This series, just, it did it for me. I heard it described as like William and Kate fan fiction, and like then the second book was supposed to be Harry and Meghan. And clearly y'all didn't read the books, because this is not accurate. There is no Harry and Meghan. What it is, so we have our main character, whose name I've definitely low-key forgotten, but our princess character. So our princess character is out here living her life, and she meets the prince, and they have a whirlwind relationship. I think her name is like Rachel. I think her name is Rachel. That sounds about right. And so Rachel and the prince are having a little, or whatever her name is, are having this whirlwind affair, but it's not really the best. And so there are ups and there's downs, and there's trials and tribulations, but it deals with infertility, it deals with miscarriage, it deals with all of that happening. I had owned The Royal We since I moved to Kansas, and I just never thought I was going to read it, but I read it. I think I was one of the first books I read last January, so there's a reading vlog of me doing it, and it was a good time. Go read the book. It's a solid little romp of an adventure. But those are the like 12-ish, 13, whatever the number was, of books that I gave 4 stars to that I think you guys should read. And let me know down in the comments below if there's anything that you gave 4 stars to that you think that you would push on somebody as hard as a book you gave 5 stars. But I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys again soon in another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.